Hey everyone, my name's Walter, and welcome back to the final part of the Christian Grey Neckbeard story. If you haven't seen the other parts, I will link to the first one in the description. Also, this is by far the longest segment, so let's just forego both the intro and the posts and get straight into it with more Neckbeards from Reddit. This story is, as always, from Reddit Neckbeard Stories. I dated a neckbeard who fancied himself as Christian Grey, part 4, the finale. Thanks for waiting, guys. Sorry you had to spend your weekend without an update, but I was busy getting housework done and my fingers were fried from work and typing up this juicy story. I'll also respond to all the lovely comments and messages I've been getting once this is posted. You guys are seriously awesome. We left off with me kicking Christian out, taking him to the airport, and me enjoying my silent ride home. It was late, but I was thinking to myself about how I could bring up that I no longer wanted to be a part of Christian's life. 1, he threatened suicide when I considered breaking off our relationship in person. 2, he was a gaslighting mastermind, and even with me staying mentally ahead of him, I feared getting trapped in his sticky incel trap once again, so I gave it a bit. I talked to him for about a week and things got annoying. Christian knew the breakup was heavy on my mind, and I confessed to him many times that he nor the relationship made me happy. So whenever we had text conversations that went well, he would always end it with comments like these. I think we're doing better. We've been working on ourselves and our communication has improved. You seem happier and I feel happier, don't you agree? We've had so many good days in a row. We seem to be on the upswing in our relationship. So many good days in a row? It's a long-distance relationship. What, are you supposed to be fighting all the time? It was cringy, annoying, and most of all it was suffocating. He refused to acknowledge the elephant in the room and my answers were dwindling and turning shorter. I started just running to places. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so there are lots of places you can go to that are secluded, away from people, and those places became my refuge. God knows I needed the exercise, but I was also literally running away from my problems. As nice as it was, that was not the solution to this. Hell, I even told Christian one day that I wanted an open relationship. Anyone who knows me knows I'm monogamous as all hell. Nothing against poly people, but it's a hard no lifestyle for me. The fact that I was considering doing something that was extremely uncomfortable for me was driving me mad. I was considering it just to get away from Christian, to have any kind of normal relationship with a healthy partner, and possibly better looking. I tried, guys. Over and over I tried to break up with this guy. But anytime I told him we needed to video chat or have a serious conversation, he would bail, feign illness, or just get quiet for the rest of the day. What's worse is he'd tell me how great we're doing and how he was so happy. This went on for 3 weeks, guys, until I had enough. I waited until I was at work on a slow day and I just let it out to Christian via text that I was done. I know him acting nice was all a facade until I felt comfortable again. I didn't love him. I lost love for him the first time he showed up at my house months ago, and I was ready to move on. I think we've seen this behavior before, usually from younger men. We've also seen it from George Costanza from Seinfeld. He wanted to go to an event with his much more attractive girlfriend, but she was going to break up with him, so he just tried to avoid her until it happened so she couldn't. It's not really a good sign if you're stealing moves from George. I'm really showing my age here, aren't I? But this guy's motive is worse. He just wants to waste more of her time, probably. I need to explain the emotional toll Christian's behavior had on me. I'm not a social person, but I am friendly and I have an undying amount of empathy to give. I will drop everything I'm doing to help the ones I care about. I just figure it takes $0 to level with someone and try to understand their experiences. But by this point I had zero empathy to give. I was a shell of a person with no positive emotions. I never have a hard time listening to someone vent, but I couldn't listen to my friends and family's grief anymore. My soul was completely sucked and I did not have the emotional energy. Christian was an emotional leech. He said earlier on that I had a lot of empathy, and I believed that is something he craves. As venomous as this guy was, he was also weak and needed sympathy and empathy, constantly. I don't know what it was, but it was like those emotions were his life force. He was literally a psychic vampire. He became stronger by wearing others down. Anyways. Christian didn't act surprised, he just said he knew it was coming and was just trying to stop it. I told him that was extremely unfair and he was essentially holding me hostage. He said he was afraid I was going to just ghost him. I told him that crossed my mind many times, but for the sake of my own closure, I needed to at least tell him over text because he made it apparent he wouldn't let me dump him in real life. He tried playing the victim card and I told him that no longer works and has run its course. He was a fucking 35-year-old man. I reminded him that. I told him we can remain friends, but I needed some time to myself, and maybe later we could reconsider dating. That was a straight-up lie, but if I didn't say something to give the little man hope, he would never leave me alone. And somehow, it worked, but not without consequences. First, he asked if we could just be sexual partners. I said no. Damn, well you miss every shot you don't take, I guess. It's funny because she wasn't even willing to sleep with him when they were dating, and he thinks she's going to do it now. Christian then decided to pull an, power move? I have a friend who I talk to just about daily and have for the past 7-ish years. We'll call him Brent. We bonded over anime and manga on Instagram back in 2013 and we hit it off. It's important that I mention Brent lived in the South at the time and he is also gay. Christian knows Brent and I are close and he always seemed threatened by that aspect. Plus Brent also finished high school and finished university with a degree Christian envied, with amazing grades to boot. Brent is younger than Christian, obviously smarter, and is achieving Christian's dream. To top it off, he was besties with me. Gay or not, Christian had a laser pointed at this man. Christian, I don't know how to describe it. He accused me of telling people I was actually dating Brent so I can phase him out of my life. I asked him how on earth did he come to that conclusion. Brent is gay. Christian acknowledged that, but still accused us of being in a relationship somehow because Facebook told him. I was confused. Did I post that by mistake? I checked and no, I had my relationship set to single. I changed it back while Christian and I were dating, sue me. So I was stumped and asked Christian how he got that idea. He said because Brent and I were joking on our Facebook feeds and sending memes, so that must have been it. Guys, I tapped out at this point, and I'd had enough. I just basically told the man goodbye and I'd check on him later. I was tired, everything was becoming a blur, and I was just glad to be done. I know this isn't the exciting ending you're looking for, so we're not done. About a week or two after cooling off, Christian wanted to Skype me and say his piece. I figured whatever, if it gets bad I just end the call, so I agreed. We talk and he's generally upset, but he has this sad yet hopeful look in his eye. I can't describe it. He then proceeds to tell me basically about how he was actually the hero of my life, and I will never find someone as good as him. Not in those exact words, and he wasn't talking down to me, but he listed all the things he could have done for me. Helped me with my mental illness, find a better job, more friends. He even mentioned he was thinking of contacting Tim, my brother, so they could hatch a plan to help me out. Tim knows I have depression. Tim knows me better than my mom. He's my older brother. Besides his wife, they know me better than anyone on the damn planet. They took care of me after my dad died, and we've always remained close to the point we made sure we lived in the same state, as close to one another as possible. I kind of laughed at that. Christian was afraid of Tim. The mention of him made him pee his pants. Christian was offended at my laugh and I shortly ended the call. It didn't go according to his plan. The icing on the cake is, several months later he messaged me asking me if I'd be fine with having an exclusively sexual relationship with him. Again. No strings attached. I remained silent. Just what the fuck? He proceeded to tell me in a long-winded wall of text as to why it would be okay and I could still move on from him. That was a hard no. The conversations dwindled after then, but something critical happened in his life, a good thing, and I congratulated him on it. It was also around that time my grandma was very, very ill. She was suffering from kidney failure at 92 and I hadn't seen her in a long time, so I was taking time off from work to go visit her in Florida. It's taken me a while to come to terms with this, but the day I was leaving to go see her, my mom called me at work and said that she had passed. My mom, being the saint of the woman that she is, held her own mother as she died, telling her everything was going to be okay. I broke down at work but managed to drive home later that day after. I knew that if I just went home I'd do nothing but sleep, so I kept my mind busy at work for as long as I could until I couldn't deal anymore. That evening I told Christian everything, that my grandma died the day I was leaving, my mom's side of the story, and what needed to happen next. I told him how upset I was. I should have known better. All he had to say was, "Well, you're generally upset. This isn't a big deal." I am glad this pathetic, underwhelming excuse of a man was not in my line of sight. I would have gone to prison for murder. So instead I ripped this worm a brand new aching asshole with my words. I tore him the fuck apart. Things I have never said to a person and never will again. His response was, "You're right, I apologize." That was it for me. I never contacted him again. He did message me a few times on several platforms, but I left him unread. He asked me was I dating, asked about my mental health, and tried to pry into my life, but I didn't budge. I was done. So that's it. Christian Grey was phased out of my life. I had a hard time communicating with people after that. I was on the defensive. I couldn't tell if someone was lying to me or telling the truth or something in between. Everything someone said was an attack, and I just kind of kept to myself for months after that. I got back into the dating field pretty quick though, and just talking to somewhat normal guys was really helpful. I met up with a handful, and unfortunately one ended in a sexual assault, and that was a major setback. But a bit after that, 7 months after kicking Christian to the curb, I met a great guy and we started dating. We're happy together, making plans to move in with each other, and just every day with him is awesome. It's unreal. There are some bits of info I would like to add. It was too much to put into the actual story, so here's a list of things that I could not add. Alright, so this is probably the craziest shit in the story, and the reason this part's so long. Let's just get started. Christian lied to me about his age. He was actually about 3-ish years older than he told me. So 38. I just turned 25. I could have figured that out with a simple Google search, but with what he put me through, his age was the least of my concerns, although it's still gross. I made contact with Christian's ex-wife. She is honestly the sweetest woman. She said he was cruel to her and her daughter, but not to the extent he was to me. He constantly threatened to kill himself whenever she called him out, so she was trapped. In her 20s, with a child, and Christian hanging suicide over her head. She couldn't take it anymore and eventually left. Speaking of that, Christian told me his wife cheated on him. Untrue. I don't want to give too much away without his ex-wife's permission, but Christian had a penchant for attempting to cheat himself. The key word is attempting. He tried to force me to wear these stupid, Lolita collars. My weeb friends, you know what I mean. But he wanted to own me and actually spent a pretty penny on some collars. I didn't wear them. It was cringe and stupid. He didn't like it when I didn't wear makeup. He would beg me to not take it off or to put it on during the day. He had a fetish for it, yet he hated false lashes. He didn't realize I wore them every day. Dumbass doesn't even know what he wants. He claimed he could play with women's, genitalia all day. I didn't let him go near mine, but from what I heard from him and what he attempted to try, he had no idea what he was doing. Yeah, sounds like every guy from To Catch a Predator. He would freak out when I didn't shave. There was a 3-day period where I didn't when I was ill, and he said he'd pay for me to go get a wax. I told him if I wasn't going to shave in my own shower, I wasn't going to pay someone else to do it when I'm under the weather. He pouted a few hours after that. He threw a tantrum when I was looking at a car to buy. I was in need of a new one and he just flew off the handle, slamming my doors, throwing my stuff around. I asked him what his deal was and he said car buyers are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. Yelling at the top of his lungs and pacing the room. I put 2 and 2 together and I realized that he hated the fact that I was so independent. Struggling as I was, I didn't consult his help. I know cars some, I know about pricing, and if I needed, my family would help me financially, no questions asked. He hated that. I didn't find out until a bit in, but he kept tabs on his kink list. He legit had a list on his phone and he asked me if I was interested in any of them. I could see him marking check marks to some or leaving it blank. I was fucking horrified. He told me I meant nothing to my employer. I worked hard where I was and management made it clear they appreciated me. I was worried about something and I asked him about it and he proceeded to tell me that I was just a fly at the bottom of the totem pole. I was replaceable, they forget me and that I don't matter. I loved that job and I busted my ass for it, so that really hurt and I will admit I cried in the car on the way home. I confronted him about it, but I was met with another, I didn't mean it that way, charade. He asked a nurse at a hospital out on the job. They must have been more than that because she reported him to hospital staff and he was no longer allowed to go near her. It wasn't a full-on restraining order, but he was barred from going near her or having contact with her at the facility. Who the fuck asks a nurse out at work? 1, they are busy helping people, not getting patients' phone numbers. 2, I imagine that would be some sort of a HIPAA violation, especially if he's a patient at that hospital. This woman isn't going to risk her career over an incel. I don't think that's HIPAA, it only affects the workers. But doesn't it remind you of Lucas Werner? Who just recently got booted from the homeless shelter for calling a volunteer nurse a classist slut when she wouldn't give him her phone number? Because we all know nurses volunteer at the homeless shelter in hopes the fattest, greasiest bum there hits on them. We were watching a show about a woman who suffered an acid attack and was left paralyzed by getting beat by a stalker. She said during the attack all she could think of was her daughter. Christian took it upon himself to say that she was lying and that the attack must not have been that bad. When you're really suffering, you can't think of anything, and he's suffered real pain, unlike her. I was able to put it all together, and I found out he is still active on Reddit. It all makes sense now. The way he treated me, the way he wanted me to dress, wanting to take me to super expensive dinners that I denied. He had a thing for abusing strippers and escorts. He's never been in the presence of either, but I've read his roleplay stories, and they're all geared toward abusing women in that line of work. Sexual, physical, and mental abuse, as well as, wait for it, underage father-daughter incest. Fucking foul beast this guy is. Thank you to everyone for tuning into the shit show that was my life for 6 months. I appreciate all of you. Stay clear of the neckbeards and incels for me, please. Edit. Added in some details. Also, some of you wanted a more in-depth physical description of Christian, so here it is. Short little man, like 5'6" or so. Sickly thin. Like legs the size of my arms. Not trying to body shame, but damn, he was so skinny. I thought he would break at any given moment. He said that being thin was normal for him, so I guess it wasn't from medical procedures. Doesn't dress bad, but not good. Complete lack of skincare. Some pimples, and he made it clear to me guys who care for their skin or use beard creams are gay. Duh. So his skin was no good, dry, cracked, and just ugh. Thin red hair, facial hair, cold dead blue eyes. Seriously, if anything scared me on this man, it was the way he looked at people. Like everyone was just the scum of the earth. He had the gaze of a zombie. So yeah, this man was underwhelming in every sense of the word, but somehow wanted women to fall to his feet. Edit. I firmly believe this man suffers from delusions of grandeur. He told me that in 4th grade he was proven to be past 12th grade knowledge. For any non-American readers, that's roughly 9 years old. He claimed at 14 he was gun running, transporting guns illegally to people, as well as using and transporting illegal drugs. He dropped out of high school since it was boring. I asked him if that was the case and if he was that intelligent, why didn't he attend another school for the intelligent, and his excuse was that he wanted to do other things. I don't know about y'all, but I ain't buying it. Well, yeah, I still don't even get how this relationship happened. I guess because it was online. She wouldn't have been able to put up with this joker for that long in person. God, that second visit was just such a bad idea. Good to see the author isn't planning on this happening again. Be sure to let me know what you think about the entire story in the comments. I doubt Christian Grey here is going to have too many fans. But anyway, this is a long story, so that's all the time I have for you today. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say, once again, let me hear it. If you're new here and want more content like this, subscribe so you can be notified when I upload. If I ever upload. Don't worry, I'm getting back to work. There should be another upload tomorrow. I have a lot of material built up. I'll shout out my patrons then, but until then, have a great night, everyone. Don't give guys like this a chance, let alone a bunch of them.